Thank you. Hello, everybody. The much-awaited panel discussion is here, and we are really excited to discuss this topic. We have 4 distinguished panelists today with whom we'll be doing justice to the topic of how we wear our Africanness. I'd like to invite Liz Ndengwa to the stage.
A round of applause for Liz.
Antonia Atarah. Miss Aria, Mama Aria. And last but not the least, Mohamed Ali. Please come to the stage. No, you can sit anywhere. Yeah.
Check, check, check. Yes, it works.
Check. Mic check. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. Thank you once again for accepting our invitation to be part of this panel discussion. I'd like to introduce yourselves by yourself so that we hear from the horse's mouth. You're not horses, but yeah. I'll start with Liz. Please tell us who you are and what you represent.
You mean old ladies first? No. Okay.
Okay.
My name is Aria Arai. People call me Mama Aria because I'm normally the oldest person in the room. Nonetheless, I'm always willing to learn from young people. I am the Vice President of Africans and African European Association, and I also have an NGO called Earth Angels of Finland, which does the Black American History Month. I've been in Finland for 27 years, and I'm an American of African descent, among other descents. So, next person, please.
Mohamed, please, you can go next.
My name is Mohamed Ali, and I work in bilingual project. It's part of the Familia and project. We are right there at the stand. We'll meet with Juliet, and Laura will be there. But I work there as a specialist developing language clubs and supporting early childhood educators how to support bilingualism and identity development for the intercultural families. I came to Finland when I was 5 years old, brought up here. I'm Somali Finnish, but I'm also Finnish Somali.
Antonia.
All right. Hello, you guys. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Antonia Atarah, and I am here representing the yearly event and organization Good Hair Day. I'm a Finnish Ghanaian and also a Fenno-Swede, so Finnish Fenno-Swede Ghanaian, I think, if something like that exists. And yes, I am also an actor and performer and studying at the moment. And yeah, very happy to be here, honored.
Wonderful. Liz.
Yes. Greetings, everyone, and my fellow panelists. My name is Liz Ndengwa. I am a fashion designer, writer, poet, lyricist, many things. I wear many hats. I'm a storyteller as well. And I'm very, very glad to be here. I am from Kenya, the cradle of humanity. So therefore, it is very appropriate that I do come here to represent my Africanness. So yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for introducing yourselves. And just to let us know that there will be like 10 minutes for questions or comments from the audience. So if, as we discuss, If you have questions that come to your mind, you can write them down, and there will be time to ask the questions. And without further ado, let's dive into the questions. Number one, what does Africanness mean to you, and how do you wear your Africanness? I will start with you, Mama Aria.
I thought you said number one. Well, I can say that Africanness has changed for me. When I came to Finland when I was 40 years old, and as a child, I always was told that being African or any part African was a big no-no. You never say that you're African. Never, ever, ever. You can be Negro, you can be colored, you can be anything, but African. Oh my God. And to call someone an African is like, whew, that was the worst thing. So as I came here, I learned about the beauty and the sublime culture of being part of the African culture. And when I went back to Africa, I was one of the only person from the diaspora of slavery to go back to Africa. I was very much taken, and I was taken in by the African people. How I wear it today is by passing on what I know, all relevant information, to the younger generation to know that we are someone. We are thinkers. We're not just musicians. We're not just anything. We can do any and everything under the sun, and we have excelled at that. So all the relevant information that is being secreted away, all the inventions and things. Do you realize that a black person invented the ironing board? Do you realize that? That is something that people don't even realize, that the World Wide Web was coined by a Nigerian. Do you realize that? So people don't know what black people have given to the world. So this is what my thing is right now, showing my Africanness.
Thank you. So touching to hear how you wear your Africanness and what it means to you. Thank you. Mohamed, what does Africanness mean to you, and how do you wear it?
Well, Africanness to me, when I grew up here as a younger, early 90s, in my area where I lived, it was me and one other Nigerian family. So there wasn't much of Africanness projected to us beside our families, where they lived. And the outside world in environment did have a negative and ideas about Africanness. They're poor people, they are and needy and all of that. So it affects you as, of course, as your self-esteem and your identity also. And you feel like kind of outside, but as there was some point I started to speak to my father about what I hear about the school, and then he explained to me about our history, because there's a danger if you don't know about the history, you will take it from outside. I explained my father, like, hey, we were slaves back in the days, and this and that, and how's life after that, and what's happening? And he said, no, that's not only the history, this is the history they teach you. There's much more to that, and there was also a period that the whites were slaves in Africa in themselves, and I said, is that true? Yeah. And slowly, he started telling me about more and more about the history of Africa, our family, our traditions, and that was different. And I started to questioning them, but also it didn't affect much. I was thinking to myself, like, this is my father's talking to build my self-esteem. But as I grew up and now get older, I started seeing those same trends to my child. When he goes to the kindergarten, he's amongst with all white people, and he says to himself, like, why am I different color? Why is my hair different? And I tried to explain to him and said to him, hey, you don't have to worry about these things. But then I realized in the end is the maturity. If you are a minority, the maturity will affect you. So what we did then, we changed his kindergarten, where it was majority of white people, to a place where it was a majority of people of color. The first day he went to that kindergarten, he came different person. He was so happy. He said, everybody in this kindergarten looks like me. And his mom, he's white Arab. he tells his mom now, and it's okay to be white. Because he thinks now the black is greater than white. Because in his environment where he lives now, where he goes to kindergarten, majority of them are blacks. But same time, his cousin, my cousin's son, who are the good friends, and his father is Somalian and mother is Somalian, he wants to be white because he lives in a white area. So it affects always the way you see it, and that's why I see that. And as a parents, as parents of an African descendants or Africans, it's our responsibility to protect the children we are planting in white environments. It will have a high cost. And usually when we get married in a foreign place as an adult, we might have some resources and some strength to survive and cope, but it will heavily affect the children, how they are being seen and how they see themselves. And they will see them, they will limit themselves. There's a story about the elephant, a small elephant. When they are young, you put a rope around the leg in a small tree, and they will try to break off. They can never break off, but when they get elder and stronger, in that same tree, they will remain there because they are locked in mentality that they're still locked. So this is the same thing with the children. You have to protect them. And the Africanness has to be, we are like ambassadors of Africans to our children.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's very important to strengthen the identity of the African child already from the beginning, because that is the identity they form from a very young age is usually what they grow up with. Thank you very much. And now, Antonia, what does Africanness mean to you, and how do you wear it?
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for the words. They were very, very beautiful. I remember that I started to think about this yesterday when the questions came. And for me, I thought about it a long time, because I feel also that it's very, it's something that is visible right now for me. It's a long journey, and it's going to be a long journey about what it means to me and how I actually wear it. But usually, or now, I've come to the term of going back a lot of okay, what has it meant to me? How have I been brought up with it? And I'm actually also been very privileged to have a Ghanaian father who has also, and many uncles, who's been very encouraging of being you are Ghanaian, and you have this with you, and you can carry this with you, and wear it as you want. So for me, at least, Africanness means a lot when it comes to home, of how can I take this Africanness and make it a home, and make it something for me and to share and to kind of develop. So it's a lot when it comes to home and enrichments and this kind of sense of community, of feeling that you are part of something bigger than yourself. And if you know that you can kind of give that to yourself, that means that you can also make it a home, that it's something bigger than you. You are not alone with this. And when I kind of, in this kind of environment, being mixed and being a Finnish person who's also Ghanaian, it's also very difficult to be where can I find this community? How can I kind of enhance this and make it my own? And for instance, Good Hair Day was a good example for that I kind of found my first time community as an adult, because it had also been something that has been part of my home, of course, that my family has been the part of it. But outside of my family, I felt kind of lost. And then I found that the sense of community and the feeling of that we can work together helped a lot. So that's what it kind of means to me as well. And yeah, and also it feels like it's something that is so diverse as well. The more I kind of find community and kind of find this kind of diversity within me, it can be so many things. And because I am not just half and half of anything. There was a good saying that you're not half of anything, you're a whole of who you are. You are a whole, you're not half and half. And if you respect and if you kind of feel of yourself that you are a whole, then all the parts of you will come out as you of you kind of like you can love it as well. It's not parts, it's a whole, and it's beautiful. And kind of me realizing that was a big turning point for me of how I also wear my Africanness, because I now wear it with some kind of also like pride, but also with curiosity. Oh wait, curiosity. Yes, like curiosity of like what can it actually be, and it changes, and how will I talk about it to people who are also going with the same experience, or who have different experience, or my children, or other people that I talk to, and also a lot with my art of like when, like especially because I come from an art community that is also very white. There's, especially I'm a Swedish speaker and in the acting department, so we are actually just two Afro-Finnish students. So the representation doesn't, is not that much. So you have to go somewhere outside to find it, which was Good Hair Day for me. And then that's why I kind of felt like, okay, how can I with curiosity kind of find it and make it into art as I am, and kind of feel that I can take something from my surrounding as well, and my culture and its diversity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, her things for some.
Please.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. This type of topic requires some water, you know. So, yeah, thank you guys for sharing. It's very interesting to see the different perspectives, and yeah. Mine is also slightly different. I came from Kenya. I was grounded in Kenya, and so I was able to see myself as a minister, as a teacher, as a guardian, as a leader, as a CEO. In terms of growing up in Kenya, you are able to see your blackness in its fullness. You have a black president. So the struggle for me was different. I came here for greener pastures and education and exposure, which I promised to go back and give to my people. I haven't gone back yet. So my Africanness happened actually here, because I was not an African before I came to Finland. I was a person. I was Liz. I was just me in my country. So coming here gave me such a huge responsibility of being put in a Pan-African pool, because once you appear, I mean, there you are. You cannot hide. So therefore, I have had to step up to my Africanness with much difficulty, because I didn't even know what it was myself. I couldn't play drums, and it was the ultimate depiction of being an African. It was drums, it was culture, and I was being asked to present a culture that I didn't know that I have, so I had to look for it, because I had never needed to be African where I was. So coming here has given me the privilege of not only being a Kenyan present, representing myself, my country, but also the privilege of representing Africa as a whole. And with that kind of responsibility, one must step up, right? So I have risen to the occasion, and I have risen to the occasion by decolonizing the things that I found in myself, because when I came here, I came for greener pastures, but then what I found was myself. I realized that I came to meet myself here. So my Africanness began here. My identity of representing a whole continent is such a great responsibility, and we cannot negate that responsibility. We cannot leave it to other people to kind of figure it out for themselves. We must tell them who we are. So I have taken that as a responsibility to myself and to tell the people of my host country my story, because they opened the door. They said, you are welcome. And it is by giving me a visa, right? That is an open door. We cannot say, oh, we are not integrated, or we're not this or that. When you get a visa, they are saying, you are welcome. And you have to do the rest of the work of representing yourself, of stepping into places and telling people who you are and showing the people who you are. So that is how I have risen to the occasion of being an African, is that I have realized that my responsibility is not only individual, but I am representing every African woman, every African man. Whatever I do, wherever I go, there I am. I am the light of this world, because hello, when you enter a room, they can't miss you. You can't hide as a black person. I've met people here, they tell me I'm Russian, I'm Estonian, and I'm like, I couldn't tell. But I enter a room, everyone knows that I'm there. So I do consider myself to be a light of this world, because people cannot miss me, and to be a light of this world because we make people uncomfortable when we enter spaces. We are the ones who are highlighting the hatred that people have of this world. If white people are alone here, they will not know who they are. But by we coming into their spaces, they realize, oh, we have some type of feelings about Africans that we didn't know ourselves. So when we come, we are telling the world about itself. We are the people. We are the light of this world as Africans, because you cannot be missed. A light cannot be missed. When you enter a room, who is going to miss you? They will say, ooh, you see how it happens. When you enter every room, everybody looks. They see that you're there. So you must stand in that Africanness with confidence. You cannot cower, because people are not looking at you because they don't like you. They are looking at you because they can see you. You understand? You are visible everywhere you go. And therefore, I make sure that here I am. I am not here, I am my sister's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am every African person. And therefore, whatever I do, however I represent myself, that is how they are going to say, I have met one African person. African people are amazing. So wherever you go, you have to be amazing, and you have to stand in your power. And actually, people appreciate it more when we stand in our power. It is we who are trying to conform to other people's standards. It is not them requiring us to conform, but we have told ourselves that we need to look like white people in order to be accepted. But white people are looking for us to be like ourselves so that they can know who we are, so we can tell them stories about who we are. So tell your story in your walk, in your clothes, in your hair. I see people tell me, oh, are you the only girl who wears like natural hair? So I want to let you know that white people can see. You think they can't see that you're trying to be something else? They can see, and they appreciate our authenticity. And our authenticity is appreciated by everyone who meets us if we can stand in it. I do realize I'm taking a lot of time, but this message needed to be put out there. So as you stand today, as you go out there today, stand in your pride of being an African. Do not be ashamed of being an African. Do not think that people don't want you in a room. They do. You are the light of this world. So enter that room and shine that light, because everywhere you enter, people turn. So yes, that is me and my Africanness.
Thank you very much, Liz, for this wonderful exposition on how you wear your Africanness. We go directly to the next topic for discussion, which is a bit related to how you wear your Africanness and what Africanness means to you. So who is permitted to be an African? Who wants to start? Yeah, Mohamed, you can start.
Okay. Africanness, and it is origin of your roots. Example, and you have a roots that are, and in Africa, thousands of years, you follow those roots. If they are from African continent, they're an African. Example, and if you look at the North Africans now, Somalians, instance, we are Cushitic. Before we became Somalians, we were Cushitics. We Eritreans, Oromos, and Fars, a lot of us. Then Cushitic people, they were originally from Egypt, pharaohs. We lived there 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 years ago. And we migrated to East Africa when the black pharaohs took over. We migrated to East Africa. So time evolved, we became Somalians, Eritreans, and Fars and all that. And you look at now the North Africans who live in North, when did they came there? If there was a Cushitic, and they were and black pharaohs. They came from Greek, Phoenicians, another part of the world, Arabs. So now they are migrated there. If you ask them where you are from, they will say we are not Africans, but we are Arabs. Some of them even say we are French ancestors. Some of them will say we are from Greek, my great-great-great-grandfather. So I define Africanness as a root of where you are originally from. Same way, example, in Finnish people, they say to you like, where are you from? I'm from Finland. Originally, like your parents. And you tell them, yeah. And Africanness, I see that we are, as an Africans, only Africans. But the example, when I grew up, I had one Moroccan who's half Finnish, half Moroccan, good friend of mine. He was with us. When he was with us, he said, I'm African. When he went with the Finnish, he said, I'm Arab. I'm not African. He could switch lanes. So it depends where you are originally from. I can now say, example, I'm Finnish. But the truth is, when you follow my genetics and you follow my roots, that's where I come from. And there's no, like example, I like the Jewish people, how they explain themselves. They always say, we are Finnish Jewish, American Jewish, Italian Jewish. This is what we are. Where we are from, I'm from the land of God, Israel. That's where we are originally from. And we will return there one day. Same thing, that's how I define Africanness.
Thank you.
Mine is a little bit more difficult because being a descendant of slaves, we don't know where we come from. That was taken from us. Like when people say, oh, you're African. Well, Africa's not a country. It's a continent, you know? So where exactly in Africa do you come from? No idea until I did a DNA test. But even from there, I don't have a common language. I don't have a common connection with anything from Africa. I had to make that on my own. So it's a little strange when Finnish people ask me, well, you know, where did you come from? Now I can be standing next to my white Finnish friend, and you know, my white American friend, and they'll ask me, you know, where do you guys come from? And she'll say, oh, I'm American. End of story. They'll ask me where I'm from. Oh, I'm American. But were you born in America? Yes, I was born in America. But were your parents born in America? Like they're trying to put the Africanness on me. You know, it's like you must be African. No, yes, I was. My parents were born. Let me put it this way: when the settlers came to America, my ancestors were waving to them because I'm one quarter American Indian. Okay, how about that? Does that make me American enough? So, do I discredit my Americanism? Do I discredit my part French? Do I discredit my being British so that I can just say that I'm just African? Do I disallow part of myself? So I'm like a schizophrenic person. How do I wear my Africanness? You know, how do I do that without discounting the rest of who I am? And I can't do that because my children look white. You know, I'm the blackest person in my family. How do I do this? So, and what part of Africa will say it's me? And even African people who are here in Finland don't consider me as an African because I'm American. And I find that hurtful because I only want to do things good for any marginalized people, anybody that's being bullied, anybody that's being, you know, put upon that it's not correct. I will go full force to defend anybody who that is happening to. So that hurts me that I'm not ever going to be considered African, ever. So everyone can say, oh yeah, you're a sister. No, you know, you put me in a room with all African people or Namibian people speaking the language, I'm out. I'm like a foreigner. So yeah, I'm like, somebody tell me, am I an African? Yes. Are you sure? Yeah. I want to hear, do you accept me as an African? I need to stand up for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Antonia.
Oh wow. Yeah, for me it feels like this question is also very difficult because I also get impact of what I'm hearing now. That's like affects me a lot, and for me I kind of see that this question has a lot of dimensions and also what lens you're looking through. And for me, I always come back to like of the question of identity and identity politics, like politics as well, because like one thing for me when it comes to like Africanness is also like understanding the like magnificent beauty that is behind it, and also its darkest moments through history, what has happened, and how that also has divided the concept of Africanness, of when it comes to slavery, colonialism, anything. Like there's so many aspects that also divides and also makes it difficult for you to define it for yourself because it's always been defined for you. You don't have any say in it. And that makes it also that you feel schizophrenic, or like, am I allowed? Where do I fit in? And if you go somewhere, like, what are your responsibilities? And if you think it through, like what someone else has put it for you, and then the responsibility becomes difficult. It becomes a burden, and your Africanness should never be a burden. It should be something that empowers you and motivates you. And that's why the question of identity is so important, that it's not about, like, I can change my mind tomorrow, but now it feels like you should never ask like who is permitted. It's like, what is it for you? Like, how can you find these things and make it your own, and kind of that also defining it for yourself, because we have a history that it's always been defined for you, and that also makes it that we define each other. Like, okay, what is this? And what are your parts of it? And then you don't see the community within it. You can't see that we have something in common, and that small part is beautiful, and we can empower each other together. And that's something that I think is really important of discussing of when it comes to Africanness and identity. That it's the identity thing that is important, because through that kind of seeing that also makes you accept and embrace that magnificent beauty, even though it has its darkest moments and times in history, but you will make it as beautiful as it should be and can be. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I will ask you another question at the same time, because you're from the Good Hair Day, and our next topic for discussion is what is the role of hair in shaping your African identity? And afterwards, Liz, you can answer both questions, and you can also answer so that we save time. And please, let's be a bit more brief.
Yes, of course, I will try to. Yeah, so when it comes to Good Hair Days, we usually like think of of three important things, which is the empowerment and positive representation and togetherness or community. And it started with the importance of also hair, especially in Finland, because we think of Afro-Finnishness, and that's kind of like the vocabulary when it comes to your Afro-Finnishness and, of course, your hair is very lacking. So it becomes very problematic to embrace it and have this kind of positive representation, because the representation of, for instance, your hair is seen as problematic. Like, oh, you have this hair, this makes it more difficult, or, oh, you have this, like, wherever you go, it becomes like a burden, or you don't know what you would call your hair, how you should treat it. And usually I come from a from a mixed family, so I have a mother who didn't know so much about my hair, and it was a journey to kind of search for her as well, the right vocabulary and what products to use, and also not putting us in an environment where our hair was seen as difficult or something abnormal or something that is out of place. And that is something, and that's because that is something that's rooted just from your hair, but it becomes even broader of Afro-Finns experiencing that the Finnish society defines them through othering, that this is something that is not supposed to be here, and hair is a visible target. So it's very important, for instance, for Good Hair Day to find a positive vocabulary, to see your hair as a crown, to embrace it in all its different forms, to make you see that the beauty standards are also within you, and you just have to embrace those things.
And you define your beauty standard and not an outsider defining it for you.
Exactly. So it kind of goes back to the...
Thank you. Liz,
Okay.
the first question, now you can answer two of them at once, if possible. Who is permitted to be an African, and what is the role of hair in shaping your African identity?
I would like to say shh in the background there. Shh, excuse me. Thank you. So, yeah. Thank you. To be African, I feel, is a spirit. Africa is not a place. It is a spirit. It is a spirit that is felt throughout the world. We know that Africanness is a spirit because Aria is American, but she is considered African something. Caribbeans everywhere. To be African is to bring your Africanness everywhere you go. It's the feeling. If you are feeling African, if you feel the spirit of Africa in you, that is what it means to be African. It is not to come from a place. It is not to belong to a place. We bring Africanness with us everywhere. Africa is everywhere in the world. It is in India. It is everywhere. It is called indigenous. It is in Australia. Africanness is the spirit of this world. So that is how I see my Africanness. So everyone who is called by that spirit of Africanness is an African and can identify as an African.
And the next question that you can also answer briefly
Yes.
is, what is the role of hair in shaping an African identity?
I need water. I need tea, coffee. Wow, that is a very heavy, loaded question. I would like to first say that our hair has been in jail for a long time. A jail of chemicals, of wigs, of abuse, of women sitting in dryers for a long time, of burning of chemicals, dark and lovely, but it wasn't lovely It was my hair that I needed to decolonize before everything, because everywhere I enter, they say, what are you planning to do with your hair? My sister, what do you plan to do with your hair? I say, my hair is ready. It is done. And they say, I think you need to straighten it a little bit or put some braids on it. Have you thought of putting a wig? Have you been to the salon? Because that's what we ask men for. May I have some money to go to the salon? So many men have paid for salons, and that has led women to beds because they needed money for salon. My hair has been used to abuse me. My hair has been pulled. My hair has been forced to grow to lengths of white people. And then I come to Finland and I find out that their hair doesn't grow that fast or that long. And yet, I want my hair to grow long. I braided my hair from grade 1 to 8. That is 8 years straight of sitting between women's legs. You don't know the stench of sitting between women's legs where there is hot seasons every time. I remember the trauma of being pulled this way and that way and upside and down. I had to free my hair because my hair has been in jail. My hair belonged to the British. It belonged to the schools of the British. I was told it wasn't good enough. If it wasn't a certain way, my hair needed to be tamed because my afro was threatening for someone because it represents power, apparently. My crown, I was not aware of it. So hair is not something that I can say in brief because my mother suffered from headaches for sitting in dryers for years and calc it and making it silky only to conform to the standards of a world that does not even exist. So hair, I do know that I'm taking so much time, but hair needs time because your hair, women are afraid of being seen by their husbands in the morning without a wig. So my hair has been in a jail of wigs. So hair needs time. Thank you, my sisters, for wearing your hair with pride. Thank you for locking it and freeing it.
Thank you.
I am not done. Hair needs to be freed. We need to free our hair because hair has been used to disqualify us from jobs. You understand? Yes. That you have been trying to conform to a standard, to be like a white person. Let me say this out loud because we don't want to say. We like when you guys do that thing with your hair. White people, your hair. We like it when you know when you do that thing, when you put your hair back. I've seen our black women try to do it, but my hair doesn't do that. My hair grows upwards to the sun because I am the daughter of the sun and the soil. When we lock it, it goes to the roots. When we comb it, it goes to the sun. So that is our hair. It is still in jail, so please release our sisters who are still in the jail of hair, who don't allow people to see them naked because they hate their hair. They hate themselves. They hate the texture of their hair. So hair needs a whole topic, a whole day. So next time, good hair day.
Thank you. The topic of hair can actually be discussed the whole day. I wish we had the whole day for this.
With me, I wanted to say something about.
Yes, please.
I started the "What do I do with this hair" day. so because a lot of Finnish women did not know what to do with the hair. And people would look at my hair. Well, what kind of chemical? I don't put chemicals in my hair. This is my hair. This is an attachment because I was coming here today to look cute. But it's still kinky. Okay, so what I do with my hair is put gel and put this up in a bun. But anyway, this is another thing that there are people here that don't know what to do with their own hair, and they do things that ruin the hair. And there are, just like in the United States, they wear braids or these things, but it's not accepted in the workplace, like Liz was saying. And we should be able to express ourselves through our hair however we want to express ourselves. If we want to have our hair in a wig of the day, if we want to have ourselves in a huge afro, if we want to do whatever we want to do with our hair, that is our hair to do what we want to do.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And quickly, Mohamed, do you have something to add?
Yeah, shave it off. Shave it off and you don't have problems.
I didn't know about this issue and issue. I know that we prefer in Somalian culture also more straight hair and all that, and it's a standard of beauty also. But then again, last year I tried myself. I grew up long hair because I was going a stressful moment, so my hair grew up long and all that. And before I started to cut off and start freshening them up, I said to myself and my wife, let me try straightening it up to see how it feels now that it's long, to play football with it. And I did it. My hair was straightened up for first time in my life for maybe 1 month and a half. I felt shameful every time I went out and I looked at people. I felt like it was fake, yeah, and it wasn't part of me. So those people who like, and I would assume that have to have a pressure to straighten their hair up, I would feel that it's not natural also for them to. It would feel some kind of stress and painful and yeah.
Thank you. We are running out of time, and we'll try to. Yeah. So please, this next question, you have like 50 seconds to answer it. What is the role of language in representing African identity? Less than 1 minute each. Whoever wants to start.
Okay, I will try. Yeah, when it comes to language, I think it's one of the important things when it comes to Africanness, and I think that's one of the small puzzle pieces when it comes to the African culture of like how are you connected to the culture. And I can just say for my part as well that one of the two main cultural things when it comes to, for instance, Ghana, it has been language and food, because I was taught the language Frafra from my father, and we speak it a lot, and then and he was very persistent that this is the language you have to speak, like you have to carry it with you. And then it was also food, that he made a lot of Ghanaian food, and we was like, this is something that we can make together. And that was like those kind of connections that I feel that are like 99% of when I, for instance, go to Ghana, I feel like I have something. I don't speak, of course, the language in like the bigger cities, but I know that I have something there, which is the language, and I notice food, and those things are like cultural elements. And that's also something that I have grown up with. But people go with different kinds of cultural things that then, for instance, I don't have, that are very important. But it really depends. Language can be a nice gateway to find a cultural combination. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Next.
I can speak Ebonics, and you guys don't know what that is. And when I speak Ebonics with my friends on the phone, all of my African friends are like, what language is that? I said, it's English. No, it's not English. But it gives Black people in the States a connection to each other. So that I understand very well about language and connection and feeling at home. When I speak Ebonics, it makes me feel at home with my family. So that even if you're in here, even if you're here in cold Finland, and there's snow outside right now, by the way, you are at home when you're on that phone speaking your language. So you pass it to your children, because it's very important, more important than Finnish language, because you, in the end, you are Black people.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Mohamed, you are an expert in bilingual project that promotes the identity of our minority language speakers. What do you think is the role of language in representing African identity? Briefly, please.
Okay, yeah. Well, briefly, you can more ask about an outstanding familiar. We are right there, but briefly, it's important as to pass on to your children your own mother tongue, because through that language connection, you get a bond. You get to the culture, the identity, and more deeper and more levels of the culture. So it's extremely important. When you go back, example, and you can connect to the also outside families, their grandmothers, grandfathers, and the language. The majority language the children they pick up in here in Finnish. So your role as a minority African or from another country, it would be preferable that you speak that language and you get a support system around it. And we have in bilingual, we have a lot of language clubs in different languages that are supporting that are creating the ecosystem and the environment for you to support your child in that minority language.
Thank you. And if you want to know more about how you can support minority languages of your family, Laura is right there. You can go and find out more. And Liz, briefly, what do you think? I can repeat the question. What is the role of language, in your opinion, in representing African identity?
Yeah, language is naturally very important. It is the thing that separates us, and it's the thing that also connects us. So language can play as a barrier, and for me, we had to learn English and other languages before we could learn our own, or after we learned our own. But I wish we could learn more African languages before we learn German and French, so that we can eliminate tribalism, because language barrier is what makes people think that you're talking about something completely different. When you don't know a language, you always assume that people are talking about something so deep, so amazing, but then you find that it's ordinary things of life. And I would pray that we as Africans, we would learn Shona, we learn some Yoruba. It would be really amazing if we can interact all the languages of Africa and learn them within the African continent, so we can be more Pan-Africans, so we can have more homes around the world, so we can feel more at home with each other. So language plays a big role, and I am grateful to your father for teaching you his language, because a lot of kids here don't get that, and so he gave you the greatest gift. So language is free, mother tongue is free. In my mother tongue, we call mother Maito. Maito actually means my truth. So whenever you're speaking your mother tongue, you are speaking your truth. So take pride in your truth. So language of mother is my truth.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting discussion, but unfortunately, time is always our greatest enemy when you have very interesting things to talk about. And minority language and the identity and building the identity of children is really one of my soft spots that I could talk the whole day, but unfortunately we don't have time. Hopefully there will be more opportunities where we can bring this issue, because it's very important and it's one very significant identity features when you're talking about African identity and children, especially who are in diaspora. For our last question, because of our time, I would ask you this very practical question, because we're living in Finland, and most of us, even if you were born here, you will always be asked, but where are your parents from? So as Africans, and as Afro-Finns and Africans in diaspora, really, I see you behind me. Yeah. So please, in one or two words, how do you think that we as Africans can support Africans in Finland?
Stop the tribalism, stop trying to work against each other, come together the same way Asians come together, the same way anyone from any other country come together. You go to their events and they're full of people. no matter who's putting on that event, no matter if it's Nigerian, Cameroonian, whomever, support. Africans need to start supporting Africans, whatever we do.
Thank you. Mohamed.
I will agree with on that one, that we need to support each other and come towards each other. Example, if today was some kind of fundraising, I would assume the full house, but since it's just about Africanness and all that, it's not that important to many. But we need to support each other and contribute more than to receive.
Thank you. Antonia.
I think the most important things in my head now divided into three. Of course, what I just mentioned that we had on Good Hair Day is the positive representation, empowerment, and community. Second of all is also changing the narrative. I think that is also like through us together kind of ask ourselves like who is telling what story, whose mouth does it come from, to whom is it, who is gaining from it. Like asking that question together can make us more together and strong in another country or a white country as Finland. It's very important. And yes, also, yeah, togetherness. Please support each other and let's break this kind of individualism but just embracing that communal sense that we can all feel strong together. Yeah.
Great. Liz. How do you think, how can we as Africans support one another in Finland?
I think we need to eliminate all kinds of nonsense. I'm sorry to use French. I think as we walk on the streets, as you're sitting there, I see only African. I don't know where you're from by just looking at you. So we need to identify like that. We need to take this as a responsibility to be an African. It is a responsibility. And it is a responsibility to another African, to a brother, to a sister, to everyone. We are brothers and sisters. We are seen that way. The world sees us as Africans. It is us who are very happy to identify as individuals. But we must now embrace the identity that the world has given us of blackness, of being an African. And when we identify like that, we must come together not only in supporting each other. When Africans say support, they think you're asking for money. Huh? Right? You think I'm asking you for money. When I say, can you support me? No, I'm not asking you for money. That is the greatest fear of Africans. When you say support, they're like, I don't have money to support. No, it's not about money. It's about bringing our thoughts together, bringing our minds together, creating and looking at ourselves as one. How many are we in Africa? We are a marketplace, guys. But only white people see us as a marketplace. We don't see ourselves as a market. We must start to see ourselves as a market and as a place that we need to bring innovations. I am a Pan-African. I don't identify myself as this or that. I say to God, I wanted to have friends from around the world because I want to be a person of the world. Because whatever we want to give to the world, we must look at it as a whole. We cannot be sticking to individual small groups and thinking that we are going to excel in that way. The world cannot take us seriously when all we do is just want to consume. Yet we don't want to give anything to the world. We are waiting for the world to give us what? We must come together and say, I am African, I have something to give, come together. And we must eliminate colonial mentalities of leadership and hierarchy. We live here in Finland, there's no hierarchy. You can call your boss Jarmo or Joni, right? Let's not, when we come into small groups, we tend to want to just be leaders. Hey, I'm the leader of this, stop that. I am the treasurer, I'm this. Let's bring our minds together and sit down as a team. team players. We have learned that from Finland. If we have learned anything about anything, we have learned that Finland is about team playing. It's about bringing minds together. It's not about hierarchy. It's not about, I'm the leader, I'm the big guy, I'm the boss. That is nonsense. We need to remove all that hierarchy that is hindering us from becoming team players. We need to go and see everyone and what they're doing, sit on a table together and be Africans. That is what Gaddafi wanted for us. I cried when he died.
Thank you.
I still cry for Gaddafi today because we are Pan-Africans and we must sit down on tables and fix the damn Africa by coming together, but not by standing, I'm a Nigerian, I'm this.
Please, I'm
we
really
know
sorry to
culture.
cut you
Yes,
short.
it's okay.
Our time is up.
So be an African, all right? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this powerful message that you shared. Our time is up, and unfortunately, we won't be able to take questions from the audience, but we hope that if there is one thing that you have gained from this panel discussion, let it be that let's support one another. Not financially, as Liz said, but let's be there for one another. Let's work together as one.
Minds together. We are
It's
very
been a
rich.
pleasure here.
Thank you.
And we hope that you have had a good time. Thank you. And thank you to all of you for coming.